All right, well, welcome to the show, Gary. I'm excited to have you on. Before we get into, what you're doing in the real estate investing space and connecting people with homes before they go on the market, why don't you just give us a brief background of who you are and what got you to what you're doing today and what you are doing today?
Yeah, sure. I'm super excited to be on here with you. So my name is Gary Boomershine. I run a couple of companies, but the main one is realestateinvestor.com. A lot of us in the niche, top producing agents and investors would know the brand by REI Vault. But we're the largest marketer in the real estate niche. We've done over 36 million pieces of direct mail. We do a massive amount of cold calling, over 1 million outbound cold calls, really just targeting off-market deals. And we've got about 250 people using our service. It's an agency model. So a lot of us are real estate professionals, right? We're either agents and listing properties, or we're investors buying properties. And so I've built a team that's really it's really taken my background and building a shared team where we get massive economies and scale for being able to do all the stuff without having to hire your own team. So it's been pretty awesome. I've got like I said, we've done over 36 million pieces of direct mail, so we're good at it. We know kind of what works, what doesn't, and pretty passionate about that. Yeah,
it's a lot of direct mail. I mean, that's probably cost you $15-18 million to do, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a real estate background. I'm sure we can talk about that. I just turned 50, so in 1987, I became a licensed agent. I was an agent for 18 years. We had a family business, and then I went full-time 2004. But during that time, coming out of college, I was a computer engineer, and Silicon Valley, I did a bunch of startups. Worked for Anderson Consulting, Accenture. So a lot of people are like, wow, Gary, you're a technology guy and you're using direct mail. Well, the thing is, you use technology to automate and manage the process. And because it works, right? How do you find off-market deals? Most of these sellers are older, right? They're not necessarily on Facebook or Instagram. And so we're using a proven method that's measurable. It's predictable, it's scalable, right? It allows you to be able to do if it's done right. So we've been perfecting that, and I started it back in 2004, 2005, just to really, manage my own business. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people said, "Gosh, Gary, it's working for you. Can you do it for me?" And that's how it all started.
Yeah, I think all types of marketing can work if you do it right, and a lot of agents, I think, mess up on that get it right step. And they never kind of step back before they do it or while they're doing it and decide who's my target market and what's my value proposition going to be and how am I going to get that message to them. So when you're direct mailing people looking for off-market deals, what is your message, your value proposition to them?
Yeah, it's an art and a science. And we really follow Dan Kennedy, a lot of the principles. And I can say I'm really not a marketing guy. I'm actually a sales guy. So we've actually, we find what works in the formula because, like for instance, Dan Kennedy, a lot of realtors, give you an example, a lot of people use pretty and they use branding, right? And glossy. And what we have found is I can pretty much take anybody's, branded marketing and take our little ugly yellow postcards with really good copy and outproduce it 5 or 10 to 1 in terms of the response and then the conversion. And so there's a formula. It's a numbers game. And one of the things that a lot of people, they just don't have the experience, right? It's like, oh, I want to basically, build a car. Well, a lot of stuff goes into building an engine, right? And so you need to be an expert. Direct mail is the same way. There's actually what are called the 6 M's. I won't totally go into it. I've got a lot of information on our website. I do a lot of videos on this, but the 6 M's are the market, the message, media, multiple, months, and money. And all those things have to be working. So the market is the list. It's the targeted list. The message is the specific words, the copy that you put in front of that list. The media is, am I going to use a postcard? Am I going to use a letter? Am I going to use a package? Or am I going to do a text message, et cetera? So there's a lot. And then multiple is how many times, what's the best formula, how many times, and then how often. So there's what's called list fatigue. If you send too much direct mail too often, you actually will fatigue your list. So there's a lot that goes in it, and a lot of split testing. And what's really great about what we've done is we've built this in a way where instead of having to do it ourselves, we've got 250 of us. So it gives us a massive capability of being able to test, split test, see what works, and then repeat it around the country, because the market's constantly changing. And especially right now, Dan, there's a huge movement in a lot of the markets. It's the whole iBuyer movement. And I would say that's where we're playing the most. A lot of people come to us because they're seeing Open Door and OfferPad, Zillow. Now Gary Keller's getting into the mix, where they're now competing and going direct to the seller for an instant offer. And so that's really where we play of marketing. And these are typically what we've found with the top producing agents that are using our service, is that they're saying, hey, these are typically deals that they're not targeting themselves. They're typically, burned out landlords. They're properties that typically need a lot more work. They're not the pretty houses that are necessarily going for retail that most agents are, farming for, right? So it's a really interesting sort of dynamic. I take two circles, and it's sort of the intersection between investors and real estate agents. And there's this really interesting kind of intersection that I call it's really the iBuyer movement of going after a whole new niche. And a lot of the agents that we're working with, they're seeing the market turn, where if they're not changing, they see that the whole agent market could change over the next 10 years, right?
So would you say your target market for these are the sellers that have equity in their house? Maybe they're cash poor. Maybe they don't have a ton of cash flow, and to really maximize it and get the quick sale, they'd have to put in a lot of work, or they just want out and they're tired, and you guys come in and offer to close quickly, kind of competing with some of these other companies you've said?
Yeah, I think there's there were 5.3 million house transactions last year, according to public record. 5.3 million sales, and 12% were investor properties, investors that were buying. I actually think the number is a lot higher. That's what's actually out there on public record. So a pretty substantial number of properties. These are properties that are, burned out landlords, a lot of inherited types of properties. I'll give you an example. But we actually pull mailing lists for our members. And we call them members because it's really you have to apply. We're not servicing. We really are only servicing kind of a smaller group of people that are experienced. They know what they're doing. They've got a real business. They believe in marketing. And so we have what's called the invisible list. And the invisible is it's mostly an absentee list, mostly inherited properties, and mostly free and clear, high equity. And that list, it's a kind of a unique way that we pull this list on public record. There's 127 million properties, and this list across the country is about 18 million properties. And so we'll market to that with very specific copy. And then we also have what's called the shipwreck list, and that's more of there's economic indicators in that list. So code violations, abatements, recently divorced, recently deceased. So things where, empty nesters would be another one. So we pull that list with equity, and then we're mailing to that. Those are working really well across the country. We're seeing more competition because more people are doing it. But it's like you said, it's primarily finding properties that are not really likely to go retail. Some of the properties have a lot of fix-ups, a lot of repairs. Sometimes, the sellers really just want to be done with the properties. They don't want to have to go in and put $20,000 or $30,000 in repairs and do all the inspections and then the listing and have people. Some of these houses aren't even really good for putting open houses, right? They're investor grade properties.
Yeah, I think there's a real niche there, area that you can serve if you're willing and able and confident to do it. And I've talked about this with other agents that have been doing this type of business, and they feel that, and I feel the same way. A lot of real estate agents anyway try to pigeonhole every single seller into the same solution, which is fix up the house, get it pretty, get it on the MLS. And a lot of sellers just don't want to do that, right? They value certainty or speed over profit maximization, but a lot of agents just can't understand that, and so they're unwilling to serve them in that capacity or give them that option.
Yeah, for sure. And there's markets for all of this. I think you and I chatted just a little bit. I was sharing Eric Hatch. So Eric Hatch, I think he was number 43 for Keller Williams. He's out of Fargo. I was speaking at his event in Fargo a couple of weeks ago, and he was running his math and telling everybody, so I do the marketing, and then I also have the phone team that does all the screening, qualifying, follow-up, and appointment setting, because that is a key. And one of the things I could share with your audience and listeners is kind of some of the keys to making direct mail, or frankly, any off-market marketing, cold calling, text messaging, whatever it is. There's some keys right now to really making it successful. But Eric basically said we put him in 3 months, we put him in front of 127 seller appointments. And he came in with a multiple offer approach. So this is the iBuyer model he basically said, hey, we can buy your property all cash right now, close in 7 days, or we can list it at, you could do some modest repairs, and then we can list it. We think we can get this for you. Or if you do what's really needed, you can get this even higher price. So of the 127, he bought 27 houses, and then he listed 27. And he said all the other ones, for the most part, he's continuing to follow up. And we're seeing that. Jeff Cohn, their team builder, they've got he's the number one guy for Berkshire Hathaway. They're out of Omaha. So I think they did 700 transactions last year on the brokerage side, and they're buying a massive number of houses in a couple of markets. We're powering them as well with similar results. But here's it, just for everybody. I mentioned it's a numbers game. One is it's a cost. There's a cost per deal, and a lot of people get really struggled on the buying the list or the cost of the postcard. That's all minutia and nonsense. It's really, what is the cost to get me in front of enough leads, right? Of those leads that are going to turn into viable or good leads that are going to turn into something I can make an offer on to close. And that's the numbers game. And it's the cost per deal. So in California, as an example, it's going to be a lot higher. I can tell you it's $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 per deal. This is typically for investors. It's probably going to be a lot less if you're basically also have the option of listing properties. Whereas if you're in Indianapolis, we've got 3 people in Indianapolis, and the cost per deal is going to be substantially lower. Does that make sense? So it's really a ROI. The other thing is there's a massive amount of follow-up. So a lot of people have this idea for direct mail that you're trying to search for motivated sellers, and I don't think a motivated seller really exists. Not off the initial call. It's really reasonable sellers, and it's a timing. So the key is follow up. So whoever does direct mail, it's typically from the time the lead comes in to a close, right, and profit. It's typically 3 to 5 months. So it's a longer cycle. It takes follow up, which means a phone team, et cetera. And we provide all that. That's a huge part of what we do. But a lot of people kind of come and they say, "Oh, direct mail doesn't work," and it's like, no, you're 3 feet from gold, just like the book, Napoleon Hill Foundation book called 3 Feet from Gold. It's like you're so close, but here's the things that you're missing. And we're pretty passionate about helping people kind of fix those couple of pieces, if that makes sense.
Hey, that's a great point. We'll get right back to it. But first, I wanted to talk about live events. Look, if you're listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube, then I know you value learning, getting around some of the best and most exciting, brilliant minds in the real estate industry. All right, nothing can compare though to being in the same room with them. So how would you like to get that kind of access? This November, 11th and 12th, At the HyperFast Sales Summit, we're bringing people like Ryan Serhant, Nick Baldwin, Tristan Ahumada, Ricky Caruth, Grant Wise, Tessa Bella, Christina Daves. The list goes on and on. There's just tons of amazing real estate agents, business leaders, and marketers that all bring just this level of expertise that you're not going to find in your typical real estate office or around the water cooler, wherever you're hanging out. All right, you're going to get to learn from the best of the best. And when you go to live events, 3 things typically happen. First, you learn from the best people in the world. Second, you learn from all of the real estate agents that are gathered there. And third, you benefit from the collective energy of everyone getting together. And that's exactly what I want you to do if you're listening to this show. All right, go to bit.ly/HyperFast Summit. You can also click on the link in the show notes and check out the HyperFast Sales Summit. If you want to take your real estate business to the next level and learn from the best of the best, click on the link below in the show notes or go to bit.ly/HyperFast Summit and we'll see you there.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I've seen it. We've done all sorts of marketing. We've done direct mail. We've done digital, open house, and probably 10 to 15% of the leads they're ready to go right now. And then of that, the rest, the like 85 to 90%, half I say are 3 to 6 months, and the other half are like 6 months or longer. And it's just following up with them somehow, like having a CRM and a team that can call them, email, text, stay in front of them so that at the moment they're ready to go, like you're the person they're thinking about.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's one of the things. So we provide the system, we do the marketing, we generate the leads, we put those into a system. There's automated text message and ringless voicemail that goes out, plus pushing right over into an auto dialer for a trained phone team that will actually work and follow up with the leads. So that's pretty much a kind of a standard service for somebody. They come in and they use our service. And what we basically tell everybody is, hey, for the cost of one resource, we're going to basically be able to do the marketing and call the leads. And that's worked pretty well. We're constantly refining it. Love the agent group, because we've been servicing most investors for probably the last decade. And I love the agents because they're really trained, right? They're trained salespeople. They're really good at building rapport. A lot of them that have been trained, like yourself and people that are following you. So they're really good at building rapport. They understand the value of follow-up. A lot of investors are not trained salespeople. So they'll go out there and they'll make a crappy lowball offer, and then they'll kind of scratch their head saying, hey, why am I not making all this money? It's like, hey, you know what? A sale always has a customer, right? And realtors understand that. The seller is the customer. And so helping kind of come up with what's best for them. And it might be buying the house. It might be listing the house.
Yeah, I think that's what's really interesting about the service you're offering is that if you are a real estate agent who's investor-minded or not afraid to make investments, like now you can capture so much more because you're able to provide more than one solution. Like if an investor's using your service, in that example you gave earlier, they get 27 deals. If a realtor only was using your service, they'd get 27, but somebody doing both ended up getting 54 or whatever, those numbers were. But it's if you're only doing one, you're leaving at least half the business on the table.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And at the end of the day, marketing and what we do, it's a marketing and it's a sales business, right? That's what we do. There's a marketing, which is you got to generate the leads or generate the traffic, and then you got to convert the traffic. And both, it's like I put this, I was in front of a large audience. I put, Elmer's glue. There's two kind of components, and neither of them by themselves will actually bond. But together, right, it creates a bonding agent. And I think that's very similar to marketing and sales or traffic and conversion. And at the end of the day, you do have to do it. Otherwise, you don't have a business. And usually, that's why I love the model. Silicon Valley is all about leveraging other people's experience and talents. And so I saw an opportunity in this niche, coming from my background. It's like, gosh, there's technology opportunities And there's the whole fractional model of, a lot of people will go out and they'll try to hire a virtual assistant to do everything. And it's like, but you still have to find them. You got to hire them. You got to train them, and you got to manage them and keep them busy. And so, that's what people forget about, the time that you have to manage and keep them busy. And so we've figured out a model where we can actually have a highly leveraged team that's servicing a lot of people, and we can do it for a fraction of the cost. And so, it's been pretty cool. A couple other little nuggets for people, just lessons learned off of doing direct mail. One is putting a website will actually, on your postcard, will actually reduce your response rate substantially. If you're putting a phone number, you're better off putting a phone number like an 800 or even an 877 number. The reason is you're also able to track 100% of the inbound calls, right? So you can follow up. But if you do that and you put a website address, it will literally decrease the response will go down as much as 50%, which is interesting. And that's across all of the marketing. I mean, we've done hundreds and hundreds of thousands of mail pieces testing this thing out. And the reason is sellers will go out to the website, but they won't do anything. And so they become frozen. And there's the old saying that a confused mind doesn't buy, confused mind doesn't sell. So putting a phone number is best. In most areas of the country, an 800 number is actually better. 877, by the way, works just as well in terms of a response. Local numbers for some marketing, especially if you're doing letters. And let's see what else. There's a follow-up letter. The value of actually putting a handwritten, we do it through, it's an automated process where a seller comes in, we'll put them on what we call a drip. And one of those components of the drip over the next couple of years are going to be a series of follow-up letters. I'm living in a house right now where a seller called to be removed from the mail, and we called her back and had a great conversation, put her on the follow-up letter, and then 3 months later, she called saying, "Hey, are you still interested?" And I came in and bought the house. That's where I'm at today. That was in 2010. I bought in dozens and dozens of houses that way myself.
That's an interesting point about putting the website on the card, because we've built out a pretty big digital marketing strategy, and we've gone away. We still have a website, but we've gone away from the website and shifted more towards landing pages and funnels. And the principle there is give them information you want them to consume and give them one action you want them to take. So if you give them a phone number and a website and on the card, and probably most people that do that are using traditional websites, then they get there and there's a navigation bar, drop down menus. They've got like 30 different things to look at, and they do a bunch of research, and then whatever, they're not thinking about calling you anymore.
Yeah. The other thing is, this is also interesting. The text message follow-up is absolutely incredible and really mandatory. I'll give you some statistics. And we're mailing primarily to an older sort of demographic, 50 and older typically is what we're finding. So 3 years ago, this is in 2016, 60% of the calls coming in were cell phones. Here we are in 2019, it's over 73%. So it's continuously moving. And so once you have the phone number, it's a great way to text. We automatically do that for our members. We've brought a whole group of us together saying, hey, what is the best sequence of words in a text message? And so we do that with our system. But no, it's a lot of moving parts. It's kind of fun, right? It's especially what I love the most is we built a community where a lot of us are sharing what's working and just the mind share of that. We've got a private Facebook group. We get together a couple times a year and mastermind, and the value of us all kind of working together, because the market constantly changes. It's typically a 7-year cycle. We're at year 10. We're definitely due for a change.
Yeah, so I definitely agree on the mastermind element that you have. So like if a real estate agent out there listening signs up to work with you, you're not only going to provide this marketing and follow-up service, but a certain amount of times a year, they're going to be able to get together and mastermind with other top agents doing the same kind of thing you are. Is that correct?
Yeah, partially. We do. We actually have a couple of events. They're low cost events. It's a typically 3-day get together. They're a ton of fun. And we do that typically one time on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, since I'm in California. And we also have a private Facebook group where our members are posting, deals that they closed. And I see this almost on a daily basis. Somebody finds a lead in Virginia and they live in Florida, and people are out there kind of conversing. It was cool. We have a guy, Clay Manship. Love this guy. He's in Indianapolis, younger guy. I think he's like late 20s, but he's been with us 3 years. Last year, he closed $2.3 million. As an investor, I don't think they did any listings. So $2.3 million in flips last year in Indianapolis. So their average price per house is pretty small. I think they did 105 deals or something like that. It's really great. He actually posts on Facebook and kind of shares some of the stuff that he's what they're doing. They've got an incredible business. And so a lot of us share what's working. A lot of us are following a book called Traction. I'm a huge follower. It's basically changed my life by Gino Wickman. And so a lot of us are implementing. It's a very popular book in the real estate investor niche for small businesses to really get accountability and freedom. Because a lot of us, it's really easy to become workaholics and having no plan and vision. So really, and you and I know this with Go Abundance and some of the other things. It's like, it's really important to have a plan, right? And a team that's accountable and clarity on where we're going, etc. So we share a lot of that in the group.
Yeah, that's great. Our leadership team a year and a half ago read the book Traction, and we've implemented a lot of it. I'd like to implement a bit more of it, but it's definitely helped us, Keri and I, grow the business and not always be there. Like we're still working in it a lot, but one of the reasons you see this being filmed down here in Florida is because we're away for 2 weeks. Business is still running. We're going to close, 15 deals this week, and next week probably the same amount. And Traction is a big reason why. And it's all about this management system and having a cadence, and not just having meetings, but having effective meetings and having the right metrics to measure. And if you guys are out there listening and feel like, you're working a lot, always stressed out, Traction is a good way to systemize a little bit more of what you're doing and work more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a quarterly meeting. We rent a house. We're fully distributed. So I have 110 people, 120 people working for me across multiple continents. We have a large team in the Philippines, large team in India, totally distributed. And so I rent a big fat house typically for a couple of days. We just did it in San Diego. We've been in Hawaii, and the management team will come. And we have a CEO, Traction coach from the East Coast, and we actually just completed our 14th quarterly EOS session. So we come together on one day. We actually put together exactly, what did we say we were going to do last quarter, and is it done or not done? What were our measurables in terms of where we're heading? We look in terms of the vision. Are we on track for the 1 year? And then we recalibrate and reset. And that's just been, I'll say for me personally, as the visionary CEO, it wasn't until I did that where I got financial, really freedom. And my wife and I and family, I got 2 daughters. We spent 3 weeks in Europe, completely out of the business. I recorded a bunch of Instagram videos and some training videos on Facebook while I was there, but completely checked out. The business ran and grew without me. We did, my wife and I, we did 2 trips to Mexico and then to Hawaii. Just got back from Montana for a week fly fishing on a guided trip. And I would never have been able to do that if we didn't have the model that Traction gave us for, accountability and clarity, because it's really easy for us to be running everything, right? And, I always tell people, I've said this on stage, every business needs a CEO. And if that CEO is doing $10 an hour work, you're going to have a $10 bank account. So you need a CEO, and you need to be running a business, a real business. 95% of all businesses fail within the first 5 years in America. So I think, you want to follow the best practice and execute it. And I know that that's made a change. Masterminding with I'm in 9 masterminds, Dan. A couple really high-end ones in the real estate investor niche, and one in the agency niche. And I'm probably going to be signing up for GoBundance as my 10th. But we have one in Mexico that's called the Multipliers. It's fantastic. Jeff Cohn's in that one as well. And then lastly, I have 4 coaches. So I'm a huge fan of having coaching. And I have a personal training coach as one of them. So it's like, hey, find whatever area you needed some accountability, find a coach.
Hey, that's a great point. We'll get right back to it. But first, I wanted to talk about a problem that so many real estate agents are facing. In fact, nearly 90% of agents are facing this problem. And that's the problem of going out of business. And then most of the ones that do are still struggling. They're struggling to get the results they want. But look, it doesn't have to be that way. I know, because it wasn't that way for me. In my first year in real estate, I sold over $22 million in real estate volume. I wrote about it in my best-selling book, The Hyperlocal, Hyperfast Real Estate Agent, but I wanted to do something more for the industry. That's why I created the HyperFast Accelerator program. Now I know what you're thinking, not another coaching program, and I get it. The problem isn't lack of information. The problem is who to actually trust, who to believe. And most professional coaches never even sold themselves. So whether you're selling 10 homes and want to get to 20, or you're selling 20 homes and want to get to 50, we can help. Right? We've done it. I've grown my team from 22 million volume to now over 400 million in volume. It's one of the top real estate teams in the country. This is what separates me from most real estate coaches. Like, I'm still in the game. What I'm gonna teach you in this program is stuff that's actually working today in my business. All right, what would your life look like if you sold just 1 more home a month? If that's something you're interested in, if you want to get those types of results, click on the link in the show notes or go to bit.ly/hyperfastcoach and sign up for a free discovery call. And look, we don't take anyone and everyone, all right? The problem with most real estate coaches is that they do, right? They try to cater to the masses. So we only take a few people on purpose because we want to provide highly strategic, individualized, personalized service to help you get the type of results you want and achieve your goals. Click on the link below, sign up for a free discovery call, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I agree with, all of it, going to events, getting in mastermind groups, getting coaching from people that have done what you want to do and will show you the way and hold you accountable. That's all critical. So just so important. It can't be said enough. What would your top couple pieces of advice be to successful real estate agents out there on how to implement the EOS processes or mentality and start breaking away from the little work in their business?
One is the most important. Well, you read the book, and if it resonates for you, and you're looking as an agent, you're looking for freedom, financial freedom. You're looking for time freedom. A lot of us, it's more time, right? It's really easy to get stuck in the muck and in this hamster wheel. And so, if that's the model you're going to take, it's all about commitment. As the leader of our organization, the leader has to be fully committed to it, implementation. Because education, right, or reading a book without implementation is just entertainment, as I always say. And so you got to be committed. I think the fastest way is to get a coach. So there are traction coaches all over the world. And yeah, it might be a little pricey. It's the best check I actually write in our entire business. So every quarter, and I'm actually flying everybody in and renting a pretty expensive beach house. So it could be $20,000 all said and done for us, $30,000 to bring everybody to one location. But it's absolutely the best check. So but I do think a coach is the way to go. One is most businesses have a board of directors So having a traction coach is like your board. So if you're not a fantastic facilitator, you can actually sit back and have somebody else facilitate and help you build your plan. It's a process with traction. If you're going down this path, just realize, it's a process. And I would say before as a company, we really nailed it. It was probably 9 months to a year before we really started to see some traction. There's a level 10 meeting. It has to happen every week. It's a 90-minute meeting. The first 6 or 8 weeks, they were, it's a process. They were a little wobbly. We rate the best practice is to rate your meeting. We rate every meeting. And when we started rating it as a team, each of us, we were probably like an F, out of 100%, we'd be in the 50s. And now we're rating typically, like this week, I think it was 95 on average, 92, 97%. So we're getting a lot better. There's a lot of us CEOs, maybe a little, I think we're running fast. A lot of us are visionary types, and it's really easy to maybe keep people too long, employees. So there's a great model that's really helped us on what's called right person, right seat, and the GWC in that book. And it takes the emotion out, and it allows you to look at your organization and say, hey, do I have the right person, and are they in the right seat? And really address issues that I see most companies don't really issue. They just sort of circle the wagon. And it's a very accountability based model. So anyway, I can't talk enough about it. If anybody, it's called Traction, Gino Wickman, and there's another book called Rocket Fuel. That's the second book. That's another great one.
Yeah, I've read that one as well, and that's interesting because you use the term visionary, and that's a big part of it. Is visionary and implementer, I believe. And you need both. A lot of real estate agents struggle, and they're only in that visionary space, and then they come up with 20 ideas a week, but they're not tracking. Are they getting done?
Yeah.
Well, Gary, this has been great. I've enjoyed the conversation. It's exciting what you're doing for real estate agents. If our listeners out there want to get in touch with you to learn about your services or how you can help them, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. REI Vault, REIVAULT.com. A lot of information. I tried to build that kind of really to share what we do and how it works. And there's a see if you qualify, and you could always schedule an appointment with myself or with Julia, who's in Dallas. It's been with me for 12 years. She's actually bought a couple hundred houses. It's really just to see if there's a fit and answer any questions. So you can always go out to REI Vault, realestateinvestor.com as well. I'm on Instagram, Gary Boomershine. I finally did it. My daughters are like, Dad, you got to, just because you're 50, you got to get on Instagram. So I do my morning minute and a lot of traction-based stuff, like just little, 1-minute things that I've learned around, things that have been lifestyle and financial freedom. And then Gary Boomershine, I've got a Facebook page, and then realestateinvestor.com on Facebook. But yeah, anybody reaches out, interested in connecting, we're always happy to answer questions. Or this niche has been really great for me, and I love speaking and giving back and sharing. Especially, I was talking to a guy, Brian Tripp, yesterday out of the Midwest, and I said, for me, I'm super passionate around all the mistakes that I've made, and being able to help other people avoid those. And I'm pretty passionate about that. So it's pretty cool. I actually had somebody said, hey, Gary, wanted to let you know, a guy by the name of Javier on the East Coast, North Carolina. He goes, hey, I don't know if you know this, but you saved my marriage.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, you know what? And he shared why. And I told him that he was the biggest problem in his business. He and his wife were working together, and now he's got a high 7 figures, business in 5 markets. But I just, I thrive off of that, of helping people and making, because life is short, right? And it's I know people have really helped me, and I love being able to share what works.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it's a great opportunity for people out there listening. If you want to learn from someone that's done it before, built multiple businesses, helped real estate agents get in front of thousands of clients, 18 million pieces of direct mail, Gary's your guy to talk to. Like, you can go out there, do the trial by error method. You could hire, it would to generate the leads that he's talking about, you'd have to hire at least 6, 7, 8 people to do the marketing, do the follow-up, have the calling team, have the technology in place. So if you're not big yet, or if you are big and want to just scale more, like plugging his system into your business, if you can act as a real estate agent and investor, I think would make sense for a lot of people. So we'll put reivault.com in the link and in the show notes and all of that. So check it out, guys. I think it would be highly valuable to anybody, especially those that want to play in that intersection of real estate agent and investing. Anything else to add, Gary, before we take off?
No, I just really appreciate the opportunity to be on here, Dan. I have been a follower of yours, and I know that you and I have so many of us in common. So it's great. And just to everybody, if I talk to you one-on-one, it'll be great. Just let me know that you came from this podcast, and so we kind of know where you came from. But no, it's been fantastic, and I love that view. If anybody's following and watching, the view behind you, Dan, is pretty cool in Florida, right?
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
I love it down here in Deerfield Beach, and it's a beautiful day today. And this is why we work as hard as we do. The goal is to make a business that can give you time and money, right? If you have one and not the other, you're going to be limited and constrained. So that's the goal. And I think if you're listening out there, Gary's got a great way to help you get there.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks again, Gary. It was great having you on, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks, everybody.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, leave us some comments. We want to know your feedback, and share this with someone that you think could benefit as well. And if you want to see more great videos, click this playlist up here, or better yet, click right here to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of our updates.